We advise all those over 70 with serious medical conditions against going on cruises, and we advise against international school trips. At some point in the next few weeks, we are likely to go further, and if someone in a household has those symptoms, we will be asking everyone in that household to stay at home. We're not introducing this measure yet for reasons Sir Patrick will explain, but I want to signal now that this is coming down the track. We are considering the question of banning major public events such as sporting fixtures. And the scientific advice, as we've said over the last couple of weeks, is that this banning such events will have little effect on the spread. But there is also the issue of the burden that such events can place on public services. So we're discussing these issues with colleagues in all parts of the United Kingdom, and we'll have more to say shortly about the timing of further action in that respect. At all stages, we have been guided by the science, and we will do the right thing at the right time. We are not, repeat not, closing schools now. The scientific advice is that this could do more harm than good at this time, but of course we're keeping this under review, and this again may change as the disease spreads. Schools should only close if they are specifically advised to do so, and that remains our advice. There is no escaping the reality that these measures will cause severe disruption across our country for many months. The best scientific advice is that this will help us slow the disease and save lives. There will be detailed information available on the NHS website and from 111 online. But I want to stress something that's very important in the wake of what we're saying this afternoon. I urge people who think, in view of what we're saying about their potential symptoms, that they should stay at home. I urge them not to call 111, but to use the internet for information if they can. I also want, at this stage, to speak directly to older people, because this disease is particularly dangerous for you, for older people, even though the vast majority of older people will experience a mild to moderate illness. I know that many people will be very worried. And I think we should all be thinking about our elderly relatives, the more vulnerable members of our family, our neighbours, and everything we can do to protect them over the next few months. We're going to need to mobilise millions of people to help and support each other. And I just want you to know that the government will do all we can to help you and your family during this period. We're not just going to be, as you saw yesterday, supporting the economy during this period. We will be providing money and many other forms of support and helping communities to support each other. And as we've done over the last few weeks, we will continue to provide, as soon as we have it, as much clear scientific and medical information as we can. So I'd like to end by repeating the two important messages with which you will become familiar. It is still vital, perhaps more vital than ever, that we remember to wash our hands. And lastly, of course, even if things seem tough now, just to remember that we will get through this. This country will get through this epidemic, just as it has got through many tougher experiences before, if we look out for each other and commit wholeheartedly to a full national effort. And I'd now like to ask Sir Patrick Vallance our chief. I'd like to thank you for everything.
We've been watching the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson with the latest in their phased approach to this coronavirus, saying that this is the delay phase is now being implemented. The main measure is that from tomorrow, if people in the UK have coronavirus symptoms, they are, in other words, a cough and a fever, they are to stay at home for at least 7 days. At this stage, the government is not considering closing schools, and he said the most dangerous period with the coronavirus is some weeks away, depending on the spread. Neave was here listening to that. So, as predicted, they're implementing this in phases, and it's just one notch up from what we had before.
Yes, all Boris Johnson clarified was that it's about doing the right thing at the right time. And the belief right now is that the UK doesn't need to do what other countries in Europe have done by banning large gatherings or telling schools and universities and nurseries to close. The belief here is that the scientific evidence says that those measures right now are not going to help. Nevertheless, the government has said that the containment stage has now passed. The focus now should be on delaying the spread of the virus until at least the summer months, where the country's National Health Service will be better poised to deal with possibly more people needing support.
But clearly an attempt also to address the fear element, because he said he did accept that many more families, he said, are going to lose loved ones before their time. So there will be people who will die from coronavirus, and particularly the emphasis is kind of reassuring older people, wasn't it?
Yeah, he spoke directly to older people. Whenever we hear about the impact of the coronavirus, we hear that for a large majority of people, the symptoms will be quite light, that most certainly we're not talking about being hospitalised, but there is, of course, a huge section, or at least the British population, that are worried about the potential impact. People with underlying health issues, people that may have existing respiratory disorders, that may well find themselves being profoundly affected by this virus. So, yeah, an important moment for Boris Johnson to speak directly to them.
And, Neave, just to broaden it out to the rest of Europe, quite different measures, and countries are at different stages and doing different things, aren't they?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And given the comparison to what Boris Johnson has said and what other countries are doing, perhaps there will be some concern and consternation here that more needs to be done. Will we look back at this time and say that the UK could and should have implemented bans on public gatherings or the closures of schools? We've seen those measures introduced in multiple countries. Only earlier today, Denmark, Norway, Lithuania, Ireland, Poland and the Czech Republic have introduced those measures, and clearly closing schools is not a decision to be taken lightly, because obviously parents will need to stay home to look after their children. That's going to have a domino effect on workplaces and the wider economy. So an important move that these countries are taking, but one that the UK right now doesn't believe it needs to take.
Neave, thank you very much indeed.